Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to be working on a Shimano Tranx 400. This was sent in by Jeremy. Jeremy said, well, please service the reel. It's getting to the point where the spool release doesn't release all the time to take up the line. And well, it's getting to the point where you can't fish it. And just generally pedaling this reel, it's a little rough. So my initial thought is, well, it's probably got a lot of grease and dirt in there. I'm seeing dirt on the back of the line guide, for example. That's usually an indication that, well, it's something just clogging the mechanism occasionally and causing that to fail. So we're going to show you how to service that. We'll take this reel apart completely. We'll kind of look at what the issues may be. We'll try and get it running so that it functions nice and smooth, and that Jeremy can have confidence in it when he takes it fishing. Well, we're going to work on this reel, as I mentioned, and well, if you like these types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting, and you can take a look at that, see if that's a video you would like to watch and learn more about, or you can pass and wait for the next video that may be more to your liking. All right, we're going to take the side plate off first, remove the spool. There's a little latch underneath here. You're going to flip the latch forward and turn that little side plate cover down. That'll enable you to remove the spool and the side plate. Well, these reels have ball bearings on the side plate and on the spool. I'd like to oil those, give them a good soaking. I don't grease the bearings, I oil them. And when I remove my pieces and parts, I like to put them into a parts tray. And that parts tray, well, it helps me keep track of where the pieces are, so that when it comes time to reinstall, I'll know where they are. One of the things I recommend is to get the schematic for the fishing reel. This one has the schematic in the box. He's provided me the box and everything, which is wonderful. And that always goes a long way in helping you out if you get stuck or you need to just confirm something that you're doing there. All right, next up we're going to remove the cap that's holding on the nut that's holding on the spool or the handle and the drag assembly. And my guess is this is probably the first time the reel has been serviced. And how do I know that? Well, they had a little bit of that Loctite on that screw, and it was pretty hard to get that one off. All right, next up then, guessing this is an 11mm nut, so let's go grab the right wrench for that. I guess that's the wrong one. Yep, and we will remove that. Pay particular attention when you're removing the nuts and screws on these reels, which orientation it follows in terms of going on and coming off. There are a lot of these reels, particularly with Shimano's, that use a reverse thread pattern. So if you're turning it one way and it's not cooperating, stop. Try to turn it the other way. It may be that you have a reverse thread on that. There's a little washer here that goes in the inset of your star adjuster. And then this is probably your first place to take a picture. I always recommend taking pictures so that you know the orientations on things. Take a picture so that you recognize where that spring goes. And then on your nut, most of the time you can get this off with your hand pressure. But on that nut you want to check, is there a difference on one side of the nut versus the other? And in this case, you have a base for that spring on the top and a washer on the bottom. I guess, do you have a washer on both sides? No. All right, so washer on bottom, washer on top. That's not a base. So I guess either side of that will work. And now we're at the point where we can remove the screws. One of the reasons why I wanted to remove the screw or the spool assembly back here was to make sure that there weren't any screws on the inner case. There is one here, and I always recommend that as you take the screws off of a side plate, you check to make sure that they're all the same size. If they're not the same size or thread patterns, you want to take a look at which one belongs where and note that. I'm thinking we get some, it's kind of a rough finish here. I don't know if that's dirt that has just dried up on there or if it's the way that the plastic casing was made. My guess is it's dirt. Yeah, it's dirt. This kind of confirms, I'm kind of cleaning it up now with the spray, but this kind of confirms that the trigger mechanism issue is most likely going to be associated with internal dirt. All right, that's the first one. That goes on the back side of the case. And then we have 3 more here. I'm going to keep these separated just because. I'm also noticing that same dirt is under this thumb bar here. So again, that might be the cause of the drag there. We'll find out. The good news is it operates sporadically, and when it operates sporadically, it's a general indication that the issue is either dried grease or dirt or debris or something that gets in the way from time to time, but it hasn't caused it to seize yet. When I take these off, I'm laying them on the table now to make sure these 3 side plate screws here are the same. And again, if they're not, I'm going to note the location. The first 2 are the same. And 1 more here. That one's in deep. I keep a variety of screwdrivers close at hand because I don't want to set the reel down if I don't have to, as I am working on it. Okay, let's just remove the side plate now. One of those screws is in here. I'll try to take that off as soon as I get this out of the way. There's that screw. It appears to be the same size. This is your shift mechanism here, and there's dirt. So this is most likely the cause, and it's a relatively simple solution on these. It's flooded with a penetrating oil just to kind of clean that out and re-lube what may be under the carrier here. I'm going to take the 2 springs off the posts that are the yoke springs right away, just because they tend to fly. I'm going to start my first part just hosing that down. Just a light spray of penetrating oil should help. We're going to remove the main gear. We'll just keep pulling up on that. It will come off. Take pictures again. We have our drag stack inside of our main gear. We have our top. We have our gear sleeve spacer. Underneath now we're going to have a ratchet and our anti-reverse dog that's come off. Let's just check to see what's happened here. Yeah, see, that's loosened that right up. So my guess is that's probably just a matter of it being dry and becoming temperamental. I am going to clean the back bar here. I'm going to use a cotton swab to mop up the dirt there. And this is a great opportunity to get inside the reel, do the cleaning there as well. Okay, this is your anti-reverse dog and click mechanism. This has an anti-reverse clutch, one-way clutch, but it also has a backup on it. That backup is a fail-safe. It's got a finger joint to it, kind of gets split on the ratchet. Looks like this one's been down for a while here. Goes like that. Then we have our washer on top of that. Okay, just set those aside for a moment. I'm not going to put those into the parts tray. I'm just going to leave them up on the top here because they're pretty straightforward. I do want to clean the back of the gear spot here. I also want to clean our pawl and worm gear assembly. So let's go to the pawl and worm gear assembly first. There are 2 screws here that should be holding that bezel in. So Jeremy, I'm 100% certain that it's just been a dried grease that caused your issue here. It seems to be flowing just fine, and just by the evidence of the dirt that I've seen, my take is that's the cause of your problem. We'll know in a little bit when we come back and test the reel. Alright, there's two pieces there. That should enable me to remove the bezel. Okay, I noticed that one screw that I took out, wondering what that was, is actually a retainer for this bar that's going through your piece. Pull that up, and again you can see evidence now where the dirt is, and there's no question that that's the piece of the equation. And mop that off, both sides. Clean out that channel, it's going to ride. Set that off to the side, clean up the faceplate around there. This is what I was referring to before. There's a lot of dirt and the like on this. So let's get all of that off of there. Dirt is the enemy of the reel. Bring that over to the side. Clean that up. Then what I like to do is spray the worm gear down with the penetrating oil. Hold the paper cloth on there. Turn the worm gear. That will clean up the dirt on the worm itself. Go to the other side, make sure that that gets done as well. And then we can remove the pawl. Clean whatever may be on there, and we'll put that assembly back together again. Be careful when you're removing the pawl. This is a plastic piece. And plastic pieces, you have a small washer, and underneath that is the pawl. There we go. Sometimes you just let it fall out. Make sure when you open up the reel and take the pawl out, that you clean the dirt on the shoulders of the pawl. Compare the points, make sure they're good. Brush here, I'm just going to brush that off. And we can reinstall the pawl and the carrier assembly. I like to turn it to make sure that the pawl is fully seated in the groove of the worm gear. Next up is that small little washer. And the pawl cap. Be careful, again, it's plastic. You don't want to over tighten, you want to snug it. Do not over tighten. With that back in place, then the bezel can go on next. And we can bring the bar in. When you bring the bar in, it gets threaded through that line guide hole, goes all the way over to the other side, and it seats in that little hole on that side. Then that tie-down clamp goes. You can use some small fingers on this, that's for sure. And that little screw goes next. small screwdriver for that. And I'm sure that it would never go the first time. I'm going to use a little bit of grease on that driver to hold that screw. Alright, now when we turn, everything should be working again. Oh, nice and smooth and easy now. So what did we do? We got rid of all the dirt and debris on that assembly. We cleaned it all off, put a little bit of oil on there. But it's tracking nicely now. Okay. Just make sure that your trip is still going nicely. Of course, trip up and down that way, but it is moving nice and slow. Flood this area with oil. Don't grease it. Grease holds the dirt. Let's remove the pinion gear and assembly next. Just pull up and out. That'll bring that off. You want to inspect it. And this is, again, kind of what we were talking about before. There's no grease or oil or anything on this. It means that it's all evaporated. That makes it tight. The worm gear pulls, or the pinion gear pulls in and out as part of the free spool release. And if it's dry and without the greases and the oils, again, there's a lot of friction on that. That could be a potential cause as well. When you go to reset your yoke, look for the side that has the angles on it. You can see the slanted side. That faces in, as does the slot on the gear itself. After greasing, we can reset that in. Just make sure that it moves in and out. That's what it's intended to do, to cause the free spool release. Okay. Let's go about the back end of this. We talked a little bit about that anti-reverse ratchet override. There's a square there and a square seat on the main stem. You can put a little bit of oil behind there. Bring this over the stem and align it with that stud where that's going to sit. Next up then is the washer that separates the main gear. And then we have the main gear assembly. Now these are a version of a Carbon Tex washer. They don't need any lubrication. There's a lot of oil on here. Oil is intended to keep the washers from drying out. It has nothing to do with the stopping power or the slip of the washers themselves. You can leave them kind of moist, but I wouldn't go beyond that. And we have a series of 3 washers here. Alright, in this assembly, we've got the broad one goes first. And again, bone dry on the gear. That's probably some of the roughness I was feeling there. When metal goes on metal without any lubrication, well, it does tend to complain. Alright. Fishing reel grease on. We can set that on the piece now. Bring that in. Making sure we're all set with the anti-reverse. Everything's lined up. First one goes on, then you're going to find a keyed washer. It's a rectangular one. It differs from the one that goes up top, so make sure you put the right one in there. The next two are the ones with the small diameter holes. The middle washer is the eared washer. It has 4 points on it. They correspond with the slots in the main gear. The final one goes on, and then the one that has a broader, almost like a Chevrolet logo, bow tie if you will. That one is going to go on top, and you're going to notice there's a raised surface on one side. That goes on the front side of that. With that done, your last internal piece, other than the springs, is the gear sleeve spacer. That's going to be the inner brace for that anti-reverse clutch. Make sure that's dry. The AR clutch does not get lubricated. The last two pieces then are the springs. And with the springs in, we can take the plate. Just want to check. That may be a bearing over on this side. The plate itself is clean, so let's just assume that's another spool bearing there, and oil that. Bring the whole assembly over the top. With the case on, let's go for the screws. Keep the pressure on the case while you're putting those screws in. There are still some parts that could become dislodged, particularly that AR dog. Kind of sits with the rim and this holds it in, so if you're not careful, you could lose it there. Okay, well, we've taken the reel completely apart. We're on the back end of this now, which is always good. There's a lot of lubrication. Pretty sure that the answer has been that this is a very dry reel, and that's what's caused the issue with the trip. I think we'll be fine now. We'll give it a final test. We'll make sure. Okay, this is the last of this side's screws. And then we haven't put the screw back here yet that holds the case in, so let's go get that one. Okay, we should be pretty much ready to reinstall now. We have flooded these bearings. Just testing them now. They seem to work fine. Another little shot won't hurt it. Spool can go in next. On the spool, light coating of grease. Don't over glob it. That'll help it sit inside the pinion gear. Just checking for clearances. Then we can bring our case back in. Flip it up. Throw the lever to lock. Let's bring it over to this side. We noted that the nut has a washer on the bottom and the top, and that this is a traditional clockwise movement for the tightening and the counterclockwise for the removal. Hand thread these if possible, because you don't want to risk having the threads tear or strip. You want to make sure that these are going on evenly. I think what I did here was I have the ones reversed. Not that it matters too much, I don't believe. Just gonna... Okay, well there's There's an interesting point. That should be where the spring sits. That was not on this one. So we're going to put both of those on the bottom. I was looking for that before, and we had that washer up top. I couldn't understand that. You're right. That's a better view of what should be going on. If you're getting stuck at this point, use your handle as a wrench or something else, maybe your fingers, to hold that shaft from spinning. Bring it down. Eventually it'll just come on nice and light. Tighten that down as much as you can. It makes the rest of the installation go easier. Okay. All right, now you have that slot, and that should be the diameter of the spring. Yeah, there you go. It sits a little bit easier that way. Take your star adjuster, line that up and bring it in. Turn it so that you make sure that the nut inside that is holding, that you're properly seated. Bring our washer on. Handle. This is quite an effort here to kind of balance everything. You're still holding the star adjuster essentially to hold the assembly down. Okay, that's on now. Then we need the wrench to tighten that. Alright, generally speaking, if the point of the cap is pointing towards the hole where the nut adjusters or retainer clip is going, you should be successful in lining those up. I guess that's generally speaking. I guess I'm just a little bit off there, but fortunately this is one of those caps you can leave on until you make sure you seat it properly. With that lined up, the last part in my tray, the last part to the reassembly is this tie-down screw. That's going to fight me to the end, I guess, huh? Alright, let's see what we can do with this. Put that in and we'll be ready for a test. Now, what did we do? We took the reel apart completely. The concern with Jeremy is that the free spool was acting sporadically. He lost confidence in it. When we opened it up, we found a completely dry reel. We found that a quick shot of penetrating oil to clean and degrease that mechanism just kind of freed it right up. And well, then we set about taking the rest of the reel, cleaning it up. We found evidence under the lip here, in the worm gear drive, and other places where dirt had accumulated, which says that that was probably the primary culprit in jamming this mechanism. Somebody had asked me in one of the channel questions, how do you prevent water from getting inside? You don't. You have open seams on both sides of the spool, so there's no way that the water can be kept out of these. So the best answer is to clean them up after each trip. Make sure that you get as much of the dirt and the like out. How do you do that? My recommendation is take the reel off of the rod, put it in a pail or a bucket of water, and just let nature do its cause. It will dissolve the micro sands and salts, and you'll be surprised in the morning when you take the reel off or out of the bucket that there's debris in the bottom, and that's what generally clogs these mechanisms. Let's give it a nice turn here. We want to make sure that the drag is in place. Oh, that's running a lot smoother than it was when it came in. Very noticeable. And of course, what was the issue? The issue was the release here. You can adjust the spool tension by adjusting the side cap here, how fast or how slow you want to go. That's still dependent on lure weight. And of course, the big moment, does it come back? Well, it comes back nice and easy. Look at that. So it was all about the dirt that was here, the dirt that was underneath, the lack of lubrication. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. It was a fun reel to work on. I'm always appreciative of folks sending in a variety of reels for me to work on. And this one, well, I don't see it every day, so I thought we would do a video on it. It's the Shimano Tranx 400. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, and rescue, for all it is that they do to keep us safe and out of harm's way. And then to you, the viewers, who have made this channel a success and really made it what it is. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thanks for watching.